Hello everyone. There we are. I am finally here. Let's get this water going. And pull up the chat so I can see my channel. There we go. That's extra loud today. Alright, so who do we got here? Icon of the Seas, how's it going? Hello Tyler. Hello Mike. Hello Kobe. Fallon. Munzer asks, hey Alex, I'm 11. I have a question. Have you ever been in the RMS Queen Mary's haunted room B340? And also, when I was watching the construction workers break the Queen Mary's lifeboats, I was sad. Yes, Munzer, I have been in room B340 as part of a tour, and it's a very nice room. I'd stay in it. Yeah, it's very clean, very, nicely designed. So yeah, it's a nice room. And yeah, when they broke up the lifeboats, that made me sad too. Over time, I had to kind of just deal with it, because there was nothing else I could do. But yeah, it was very sad. Alright, let's see. Thank you, Tyler. Jared says hello from New Zealand. Hello, Jared. Jimmy, what's going on? My day's going really well, actually. Hung out with my dad for a little while. So he lives here now, so I helped him kind of move some of his stuff in and stuff to his apartment. And yeah, and he's coming over for dinner after the live stream. So after the live stream, I'll be cooking dinner and stuff. So, let's see. Fallon Will says, Alex, how old is Queen Mary? Well, let's see if I remember. She celebrated, math in my head. I can't do math right now. Don't ask me to do math. She went into service in 1936. Her maiden voyage was May 27th. So whatever math that adds up to, that's how old she is. Yeah, I can't do math in my head today. Too much. Hello, K4RNA. Pacific says, will we see your dad in any of your videos related to modeling? Maybe. It depends on how he feels about it. I've told him that it's not a cakewalk putting your face on YouTube. People threaten you with your life, they threaten you with, like, releasing personal information, so it's really like a risk putting your face on YouTube. So I know I do it every day, so, people don't think it's like that bad, but I deal with stuff all the time. People all the time just saying all kinds of things, and yeah. So it's up to him if he wants to do that, but, I'd like him to help me with the layout, and I do need to film the process so people can watch, but yeah, it's up to him if he wants to be, on camera. Kevin is recovering from a cold. Well, hopefully you're able to get over it quickly. Let's see. Hello, Lightning McQueen. Fallon says, Alex, what year is Titanic disappearing? I don't know. It's not like they've, like, scheduled it for for complete, I don't know what happens in the process of water. Just degradation. It's not like they scheduled the day that it's going to be gone. I have no idea. Rory Hoban says, will you be doing a video on the hauntings of Queen Mary? These days, I never like to say never, but I really highly doubt I ever will. And the reason why is because I've kind of said my part already on what I think about the hauntings of the ship, but mainly there is a chronic issue with the Queen Mary, which is that all anybody ever focuses on is her ghosts. They don't give a fig about her history. And her history, I think, is way more important. I think it's really important to me. It's really important to a lot of Queen Mary fans that Queen Mary is remembered for the incredible history that has taken place on and around that ship. Unfortunately, the ghost aspect of the ship has completely just overwhelmed. What am I trying to say? I can't even put words together in my head. The ghost aspect is destroying the Queen Mary's reputation. Because all anybody ever cares about now is the ghosts. They don't care about the history, you know? And I'm trying to change that. The whole purpose of this channel is to change that mindset. Get people to stop focusing so much on the ghosts because, frankly, I do believe in ghosts. I've never experienced any ghostly activity on the Queen Mary. Some people say they have, you know, they might, you know, I can't say that there is or there isn't. But I can certainly say that most of the ghosts that are famous for the Queen Mary, you know, the famous ghosts of the Queen Mary are not actually real. It's the real ghost hauntings are probably the ones that happen, like, you know, when a door opens or when you hear a whisper when there's no one there, you know. But so yeah, I'm trying to change the mindset that people have, which is to focus on the history and not so much the aspect of its hauntings. So that's why I highly doubt I'll ever really go in depth on those topics. We're starting to get into really cold weather these days. So, so when I preheat these, the teapot, you know, the cold countertop makes the teapot colder faster. So I've started putting it on top of a tea towel just to kind of provide some kind of thermal barrier, you know, so it doesn't lose its warmth so quickly. So today's tea is Earl Grey tea. It just felt like a good day for Earl Grey. And yeah, let's see. Logan says, what ocean liner do you like most? The RMS Queen Mary, my favorite one. Rory says, will you be doing a video? Oh, I already read that one and answered it. I don't review products on this channel, Icon of the Seas. You know, I'll recommend something that I've tried if people ask me, but I usually don't promote products on this channel. I don't want people to think that you can, like, buy me off with, like, products, you know? That's also why I also don't do, like product promotion, you know? Like, you don't see ads on my channel for, like, you know, me talking about, like using a VPN or anything like that, you know? I try to keep all that away. Hello, Doc, and thank you so much. Don't worry, I don't stress out that often. You know, the whole reason why I'm on this YouTube thing is because, you know, it's one of the least stressing things I've ever done. It's still difficult work, and it is stressing at times, but it's not stressing all the time. I am kind of in a stressing period because of the fact that, you know, I've been putting out a lot of videos lately, and they haven't been getting very many views. It's it's starting to dawn on me that a lot of people are not enjoying the videos I'm making. There's a lot of like positive comments, but the people who are watching the videos are the people who just generally like that kind of stuff. Like anything I put out, you know, they enjoy it. But the main subscribers of the channel, they're not watching my videos. So I'm trying to figure out what is it they want to see. I've tried putting out polls and things like that in the past, because I know some people think, well, just put out a poll and see what people say. But you get a lot of mixed messages, and people sometimes don't even really know what they want to watch. So you have to figure it out for them. So I am kind of stressing out a little bit just because the views are just plummeting. So I'm trying to figure out what it is people want to see on my channel, because it's obviously not what I've been putting out. But yeah, I'm not that stressed. Hello, Mark. Good to see you. Dino says, are there ocean liners still sailing that have been updated for cruising? Yeah, I mean, up until recently, they had... oh, geez. I don't remember the name. There was an ocean liner that just, like, 2 years ago was finally taken out of service. It was converted into a cruise ship, and it may return to cruising, but I don't remember the name off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't remember the name off the top of my head. But as far as I know, because that ship that I can't remember the name of is no longer in service at all, it hasn't been in service for 2 years, that means that the RMS Queen Mary 2 is the only ocean liner left in service. Icon of the Sea says, Alex, do you like warships? If so, what's your favorite? I am not a warship person. So, if I'm at, like, a museum, you know, like, I've been to, like, the SS Jeremiah O'Brien, which was a Liberty ship. I've been to a lot of like, museums that used to be, like, warships. And those are always interesting to me, but I am not a warship person, which is exactly why I don't make videos about them on my channel. It doesn't interest me that much. So I actually don't have a favorite, because I really don't follow like which ones are which, or what they are, or how they work, or anything like that. I'm always up for visiting a museum, but doesn't mean I'm really that into it. Fallon says, Alex, have you heard of RMS Andrea Doria? Absolutely. A lot of people ask me. I feel like maybe like every live stream or every other live stream, people ask me about Andrea Doria. Hi, Alex. What do you think about the new Icon of the Seas? I personally really liked the whole front section. I don't really like cruise ships, so I really don't. It means nothing to me. To me, it's just another hotel on the water. Mark says, we are enjoying a series of TV documentaries here in Australia right now called Secrets of the Lost Liners. Episode 2 was Queen Elizabeth, but naturally there was a strong emphasis on Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. Neat. Secrets of the Lost Liners. Yeah, hopefully that will make its way onto YouTube and then I can watch it. Russell Cooper says, why are the funnels painted red and black? That's a very good question. So it started off with the RMS Britannia, which was the first ship that was operated by the Cunard line. 1833, I want to say, or 1838. One of those two, because they have another ship that I think was before it. So it's either 1833 or 1838. I don't remember which one. But they were looking to paint the funnel. Now, the funnel on those ships gets really hot, blisteringly hot, because it's constantly exhausting the hot gases from the boilers. So, and that's really, really hot. You can't put your hand on it. So they needed a special paint that wouldn't like burn and flake off. So they were putting together a special mixture. Don't ask me what the mixture is. I I don't remember. But it goes on a certain color, or it went on a certain color, I would say. And then it quickly, like, cooked into a, like, orangish red color. And that color just became synonymous with Cunard. And so the black stripes was just something they came up with to kind of paint the joints of the funnels together. And, prevent leaks and stuff from getting in the joints of the funnels. And that just became the iconic look. And so even to this day, when they no longer really need to paint the funnels with that special paint, they still paint the funnels anyway. That same orangish color. I mean, granted, the orangish red color that Cunard uses has changed over the years. Sometimes it's been more orange than red. Sometimes it's been more red than orange. It changes, but it's been kind of iconic for Cunard. Okay, so let me go ahead and... It's time to start brewing the tea. So I'm going to let that come back up to a boil. Pacific CY says if they wonder if Queen Mary will be open by spring 2023. It should be. It should be open by spring 2023. Even the hotel portion should be open by spring 2023. Drawmations says, "Hi Alex, did you know that when Queen Elizabeth went through a refit in 1965, she received an outdoor swimming pool?" Yes, I did. They built a whole Lido deck for the Queen Elizabeth. Not a lot of people know that, actually, so kudos to you for knowing that. It was funny, though, they added the swimming pool, but it was only useful on cruises because when she did her transatlantic crossings, they really couldn't use it because the ships rolled so much out in open ocean. So, really, it was only useful during the calm waters of the cruises. Let me just empty part of this out, too. Refill that. Refill this. Yeah, it's so cold. I'm gonna actually struggle to keep everything warm and enjoyable. All right. Hey there, Maverick. 417, so 422. Okay. Ryan says, "Hey Alex, how do you find what's true on websites, but you find it to be false after all? What do you believe is best for when researching and finding credible facts about anything?" That is a very good question. Cross-referencing is simple in definition, but very difficult in real life. So what I do is I pull up multiple sources, as many sources as I can. You look at some videos I've made, and I usually put in the description of each video the references from where I got the information from. Even the shortest videos, I try to at least have 3 references for the information that I got. But then there's like a video, like my French Quarter video, you know, the video I did about New Orleans. That video had something like maybe around 10 different references, which is a lot, you know. But yes, the important thing is to get a lot of references and sources, and then what you do is you read through them, you take notes, and then if you come across information that might seem kind of fishy, like you don't really know if it's true or not, you look at the other sources and kind of see. And sometimes you'll even discover things for yourself. Like you'll realize, hey, one source says this, but the other source says the opposite. So then what you do is you have to go through all your sources and see if there's another like confirmation or something. And it's really just, it's It's not easy, I will admit that, because some sources are copying information from another source. And sometimes you'll find that source for all these other sources, and you're kind of like, okay, does this work? So then another way you can do it is you look for images of said thing. So let's just say if one source says, oh, a tree was planted in 1899, but then another source says, no, that tree didn't exist till 1910, then you might try to look for images of it to see how early on you can find a photograph of that tree. And if you find the photograph from 1905 or something, you'll know that it most certainly was planted before 1910. So the 1899 source might be correct. So there's things like that. And then sometimes, after you've done the best you can, sometimes you just cannot confirm whether or not something is true. And for that, you just have to go with what you got. And if people ask you, cite your source. I'll give you a good example of that. Everybody will find this interesting. My video about the SS Princess Louise, the one that that was ill cared for in Los Angeles and then later sunk right off the coast of California. There were two different sources that said that the SS Princess Louise was going to be sunk off the coast of Catalina Island as an artificial reef. The sources specifically said it was going to be sunk in 500 feet of water so that recreational divers can go and explore the wreckage as it turns into a reef. Now, I thought that was odd because I thought to myself, recreational divers, they don't usually go down that far. The furthest I've ever heard of a recreational diver diving was 400 feet, and that is that's deep for a human being. And so I thought, well, that's really strange information, but yet two sources say it. One of those sources is directly from a newspaper from the early 1990s when the ship was going to be towed out and sunk. And so I was having a devil of a time finding other sources that could confirm or not confirm how deep the water was going to be where they sunk it on purpose, or at least where they tried to sink it. There was nothing. Now, I could have made an executive decision thinking it's not possible that recreational divers would have swam 500 feet underwater. So I'm going to change the number, right? I could have done that, but that wouldn't be honest of me because I can't invent facts. You know what I mean? If a source says it and that's the only information there is on it, sometimes you just have to go with the source. And when people tell you, oh, you're wrong about that, which they did, I got a lot of people saying, Alex, that's not possible. Recreational divers don't go 500 feet underwater. I had to just say, you know what? The source said it. I can't invent a number for how deep the water was going to be. So my best guess was that it was put in that newspaper, but there was a typo. My best guess was that it was going to be sunk in 50 feet of water, but they accidentally added an extra zero. That's what I think happened. But there really was there was nothing. I couldn't correct it because that's not my information to correct. So yeah, so in my video I said, and they were to sink it in 500 feet of water. So the best you can do is just cite your sources and say, hey, that's what this source says. I'm leaving it at that because I can't find anything that contradicts it with more accurate information. So that is how I do things. And yeah. Ooh. Okay, it is time for tea. All right, so good afternoon, Gump. Icon of the Sea says, are your model trains HO scale? No, they are O scale. Christian says, "Hey Alex, did you know that the team salvaged 3 out of 4 of Lusitania's propellers and put them on display in different places?" No, I didn't know that. Mark says, "I admire your integrity, Alex, not promoting goods. A breath of fresh air." Yeah, I just feel like it's wrong. I mean, well, okay, I don't feel like it's wrong necessarily. If a doctor was promoting, like if a doctor was on YouTube and all of a sudden he's like, today's sponsor is like minty fresh, you know, toothpaste, then that might seem unethical because the doctor is, you know, is basically saying like, I'm endorsing this product because I'm a doctor. Well, I'm not a real historian, at least I'm not, you know, university educated. It wouldn't really matter if I was like, oh, this video is sponsored by a VPN. But what makes me not want to do it is really more about how, any, you guys ever seen the movie Truman Show? And in the movie, like, he'll be, like, the guy will be having a conversation with his wife, and all of a sudden she'll be like, let me make some of you this instant hot cocoa. It's the best hot cocoa there ever is. And he's like, what are you doing, you know? Like, that's what I feel like when I see YouTubers who are just suddenly like, and you know what? What I could really use is some gaming time with War of, I don't know, the Worlds or whatever they call it, you know? And I'm like, it just doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem natural for them to be in the middle of a conversation and suddenly endorse a product. And some YouTubers, they're endorsing products that I know for a fact they don't use. But they're doing it because they're getting money, and that's, you know, that's up to them. That's, you know, that's their life. They can do what they want. But there's some YouTubers where I'm like, I know they don't use that product because they have a much higher quality than what this product offers. So I'm like, it just doesn't, it seems a violation of my ethics to do that. And so that's why I don't really do that. But yeah, especially like when people are just suddenly talking and then they're like, oh, this video, by the way, is sponsored by NordVPN. I'm like, just get to the video. I end up skipping through that whole thing. So, but I mean, obviously, maybe I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because my videos are monetized. So you go on the video and there's commercial breaks. And so, you know, that might be a bit hypocritical of me. I don't really know. But it's not like I know what ads are going to be in my video because, you know, YouTube will promote certain ads for the individual. So some people might like a lot of ocean liner stuff, so they might get ads for cruise lines. But then other people might really like cars, so then they'll get ads for cars. So it's not like I'm endorsing those products because I don't know what they're going to advertise to you. But yeah, so I will admit the hypocrisy. I think everybody deep down is a hypocrite, to be totally honest. But and that's not necessarily bad. It's just depending on what you're hypocritical on. But yeah, I will never consciously lie to people. I don't think there's really a point to lying to people, really. Stephen Hemingway says, morning. Good morning, Stephen Hemingway. Let's see. Derpy says, for some reason, I'm not getting notifications for these. Thanks, YouTube. Appreciate you. Yeah, you know, it could have also been because I didn't actually schedule this stream till like 2 hours ago. And so I think YouTube needs more time to like notify people about stuff like that. But Doc says, hope you're able to keep the book narration going, and the art or food history video sounded like great ideas. Do you think holiday-themed videos may do well? You know, I was doing holiday-themed videos. I thought that would be really cool, but it's not working. People aren't watching them. They're some of my worst-performing videos I've ever made. So, like, I've done 2 this season. I did the murder at Browns Ferry Park video, which I thought was going to get a lot of views. I thought people are going to like this. and then nobody clicked on it. Like, there was, like, only the core people who watch my channel were watching it. But, like, the average folks on my channel were not watching it. So I was like, okay, well, you know, maybe it's like a fluke or something. Maybe they just don't know what this park is, or maybe the thumbnail isn't that attractive to them, so they don't click on it. But then I put out the Vampires of the Ursuline Convent video just the other day. I thought for sure, I'm like, oh, this will get a lot of views, because now that I made a video about New Orleans, there's gonna be a lot of New Orleans, because that New Orleans video got me like 500 subscribers. So I'm like, there's got to be at least 500 people who are gonna watch this video. And I mean, there was technically. I think there's been about 1,300 views so far, just about. But that's not nearly enough for 3 days so far. It should be like 3,000 by now, if not more. If not far more, to be totally honest. But yeah. So those videos did not perform very well. So that's one of those things where I'm kind of like, it's difficult, because you think you know what people are going to want to see, and you think you know what'll be really popular, but then it just turns out not to be. And so you have to like rearrange your plans, you know, because I try to come up with a plan ahead of time for what I'm going to be doing, you know, 2 weeks from now. But when things like this happen, where a video just turns out not to be very popular, and then your views continue to drop, then you've got to change that and try to quickly put something out that you think will be interesting to most people. So it's a balancing act for sure. And you know, you might have seen on my community posts, I posted a question, a poll for people to answer, which was whether or not when you see my videos, is it immediately apparent to you that that video is mine, or do you sometimes think that's someone else's video? Because sometimes I get the feeling that people see my videos in their feed, but they don't know it's from me, so they go, oh, well, I don't know what YouTuber made that, so I'm not going to click on it. I feel like if people know that it's my video, they'll be like, oh, well, Alex makes good videos, so I'm just going to click on it. But most people, I think it was 80%, I think, said that they know that when they see a video in their feed, which one is mine. They know. So I'm like, okay, well, then that's not the problem. So, you know, and some people don't get notifications for my videos, but then again, some people don't subscribe to notifications. You can't force people to hit the notification button. You can ask them, but then that becomes really annoying. You know, at the end of every video, you're like, hit the notification bell, and then people don't. So it is really tough to do what I do, because you work really hard for weeks to make a video, and then it just doesn't pan out. You know, people don't watch it. Like my, I think my worst performing video of all time was my Benson Hotel video. I was so proud of that. I thought that was a really good video. But it's barely just surpassed 1,000 views, and it's been on for like at least 2 months, I think. So yeah, you never know like what will be popular and what isn't. Oh yes, Doc, as for the question about the book narration, yes, I already recorded narration for chapter 4. I just have to edit that into a video. But yeah, I'm thinking chapter 4 may come out tomorrow or Tuesday. Depends on what day I think will get most views. So sometimes Mondays get you more views, but then sometimes Tuesdays get you more views. So it really depends. That's why I usually stick to a schedule of putting videos out on Tuesdays and Fridays. Gabe says, Christmas is almost here, isn't it, Alex? Yes, indeed. Christmas is almost here. I'm really excited because I love the Christmas season. Valance says, is it possible to raise the Britannic? I don't think so, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. Gabe says, how's your weekend been, Alex? It's been really good. I've had a good weekend. Maritime Review says, who do you prefer, Benny Goodman or Artie Shaw? I've really only heard Artie Shaw. I haven't heard much Benny Goodman, so I will say Artie Shaw. Steven says, the New Orleans presentation was awesome. Love the diversity of your work. Thank you. Yeah, I try to put out, like, multiple things. You know, stuff I think is really interesting is what I make videos on. I try not to make videos on stuff that I don't think is interesting. Because then, why would my subscribers watch it, you know? Thank you, Brian. K4RNA says, I was bidding on an unopened letter from the maiden voyage. I lost it at $177. Oh, wow. Pokey Smoochy says, did the hot tap water on Queen Mary come from the same boilers that powered the ship on the Queen Mary? If you're talking about when the ship was at sea, yes. Well, okay, no. No, there is a difference. Because when you say powered, you probably mean, like, powered the engines, the main engines. So, no. There were 24 Yarrow boilers on the Queen Mary that supplied steam to the turbine engines. Having difficulty putting words together in my head, you guys. The turbine engines, and then there were 3 double-ended Scotch boilers at the very front of the ship that were for powering the turbo generators and supplying steam to the ship's heating systems and the kitchen's kettles, and they used some of that steam to heat water. So it didn't come, the hot water on the ship didn't come from a boiler. It came from the steam from the boiler, which was directed into hot water heaters throughout the ship. So I believe on every deck there would have been a closet here and there that had a steam-powered hot water heater. And then that steam came from the boiler room. And so that's how they did it on the Queen Mary. Today, when you stay in the hotel, they have individual hot water heaters that are powered by an external boiler that is on the dock. And that boiler is just a typical hotel boiler. It's not like a ship boiler, you know. It's like a hotel boiler. So Logan, don't worry about it. School is really important. More important than my live streams. Wow. Very gusty outside, I guess. The air is so clean because, like, I mean, it's always clean because this is the Pacific Northwest. There's a lot of trees and stuff, so it's very clean. But today it's extra, like, oh, the air outside is so fragrant because it rained all day. Was it all day on Friday? But then it rained a little bit last night, so everywhere it's still wet and it smells like earth. It's so nice. As you guys can tell, I love living up here. I just love it. Interesting, Christian. A movie called Murder on the Atlantic. Huh. Kyle says, finally managed to catch you live. Well, good. Glad you're here. Brian says, "Hi, Alex. Always look forward to Saturday tea time with you and the others on this channel. You guys make my day." Oh, thank you so much, Brian. Yeah, that's why I do these tea times, because I think it makes a lot of people happy. You know, it certainly created kind of like a camaraderie where people can, like, well, they watch the stream. They're usually at home drinking coffee, tea, or soda. And, you know, and they're just here talking with all of us and talking about, you know, anything, you know, ocean liners, trains, Disneyland, you know, all that kind of stuff. So, it's actually kind of cool because I think we all get something out of it. We're able to, like, talk to each other and stuff. So, Daniel says, "Hello, Alex. Sorry I'm late. I'm a little sick." That's all right, Daniel. Just glad you made it. Russell Cooper says, "How far could the Queen Mary sail before having to refuel?" So technically, she was only really designed to go the distance of, you know, Cherbourg to New York, or New York to Cherbourg, which is a little over 3,000 miles. But she did have a little bit of extra fuel on board for, like, if they were slowed down by a storm, for instance, then they would need extra fuel to kind of battle that storm and get through it. I don't really know the maximum distance that she could go fully loaded with oil. But what I can tell you was on her last voyage from, you know, from England to the United States to Long Beach, there was a segment in that voyage where she had to cross the Atlantic. But where she crossed was, there was a port on the west of Africa. I can't remember the port. Oh my god. She crossed from there and went to Trinidad. Or was that during the war? Oh gosh, I don't remember. But there was a point in the voyage where she went from the northwestern part of Africa, crossed over the Atlantic going across the equator, and then reached the northeastern part of South America. For that voyage, they knew that she could not have all 4 engines running because she would run out of fuel. So, to ensure she didn't run out of fuel, they only ran 2 engines. And so she kind of went very slowly across the water. I mean, she did, I think, maybe 21 knots, maybe 22 knots across the Atlantic on that voyage. But by running only 2 engines, she was able to make it across the Atlantic with extra fuel to spare. And then she was able to resume her voyages as normal, from going all the way down to the Cape and back up again towards Long Beach. So, yeah, but I don't know the distance that she can go with all 4 engines running without, you know, before she runs out of fuel. I don't know. I would be confident, though, in saying that she could probably go from Cherbourg to Halifax, Nova Scotia, without refueling, and then go to New York. I'm confident in saying that she could do that all on 1 tank of gas, if you will. Tyler says, "Really enjoyed your vampire video." Thank you so much. Little Gamer says, "Saying how it's close to Halloween, what did White Star Line and Cunard do for October?" To be honest, as far as I researched, they didn't really do anything for October or for Halloween. I know for Christmas they did something, and I'm going to make a video about that. But Halloween, I don't think they did, because you have to remember that the British didn't really celebrate Halloween. Halloween is, you know, an American thing. And even though there were a lot of Americans on board the ships, they were British ships. So I don't think they did anything for Halloween, but they did do something for Christmas. Thomas says, really like the Benson video. Well, thank you. Kyle says, what happened to the outdated ship regulations about ships over 10,000 tons? I don't know. That to me sounds like I can tell you about the history of certain ocean liners, but I can't tell you about like how regulations work. Yeah, I don't know. Lightning McQueen says, do you like going to flea markets? Not particularly. I'll do it if I have to, but I don't particularly like going to flea markets. Hey, Rena, how's it going? Pacific says, what do you think would... Oh, by the way, I'm, so I have this... We're getting into the season of Marion berries up here in the Pacific Northwest, so almost everything will have, like, Marion berries in it. And so I have this, I bought this muffin that is a lemon Marion berry muffin. So then I have this with my tea. Okay. Pacific says, what do you think would happen if Queen Mary was powered by diesel motors and not oil-burning boilers? I mean, nothing would happen. She'd be more fuel efficient. I don't know, maybe you're asking something else. There's really nothing would happen. The ship would be more fuel efficient, but... Octarian says, if Oceanic 3 was built, then what are the chances of it being sunk in the war? I don't know. The same as any other ship, to be honest. But I don't know what the chances of any other ship was. Like, I don't know what the chances of Queen Mary being sunk in the war was. Yeah, it just, you know, it would have been subjected to that kind of danger regardless. Oh, Daniel says that because he's sick, his mom made corn tamales and he can't taste the amazing flavor. Oh, yeah, that sucks about when you're sick and you can't taste things. Yeah. Thank you so much, Paul. Would love to see you do a video on warships or aircraft carriers, like the Midway. I don't know. I really only make videos about things I think are interesting. Warships are not interesting enough to me. Hyfer says, for some context on fuel range, QE2, after becoming a much more efficient diesel-electric ship, could sail for 12 days at the 28.5 knots service speed without refueling. Interesting. Hyfer says, did you get my Facebook message? If you would like input with your QE2 video, I messaged you since YouTube direct messaging. I might have come across your message, or at least like a little tidbit of it. I'm not really on Facebook that often. The best way to contact me is by email. I only give people my Facebook link because that's sometimes where I post video links, but then again, I don't have very much of a following on Facebook anyway, so I kind of stopped doing that. But Yes. So thank you very much. Um, yeah, I'll ask you if I need anything. But yeah, best way to contact me, everybody, is on email, not Facebook, because I'm never on Facebook. Maritime View says, do you foresee anybody rebuilding a replica of an ocean liner as a hotel museum in the future? If so, which liner besides Titanic being the obvious answer? Building a replica of an ocean liner? I don't foresee it happening, no. Because I feel like if there was that much of an interest, it would have already happened. It would have happened in, like, the year 2000, when the movie Titanic was fresh in people's minds, you know? That would have been the time to, like, do a lot of stuff. And in fact, that there were lots of plans in place to make new Titanic museums everywhere. And that's why we have all these Titanic museums now, is because the movie kind of hyped all that up. But, but now, 20 some odd years later, it's slowly fading again. Not that much, but still, it would have been more likely to happen in the early 2000s as opposed to now. So I don't think it's going to happen. Doc says, I also loved the Benson video. Strange to learn about no Halloween on Queen Mary. I always imagined a Disney-sized celebration for both Halloween and Christmas on Queen Mary. Always learn so much from you. Yeah, I mean, there was nothing for Halloween, and the Christmas celebration was really not that big. And let me just tell you guys, it was not that big. They gathered a bunch of people, whoever wanted to join, in the main lounge for some, some basic games and fun. It was mostly geared towards the kids on the voyages. They got to play musical chairs and stuff. And then, if they were on an actual voyage happening during, like on Christmas, Santa would come into the main lounge and give all the kids who were there presents and stuff like that. So it was stuff like that. There really wasn't much. It was really, like, equivalent to maybe, like, going to a Christmas party that your family is throwing. It really isn't that grand. So that's what they did on Queen Mary during Christmas. They did have some Christmas decorations set up in the main lounge, but it really wasn't that big of a celebration, Fallon says, Alex, did you know Titanic is faster than Lusitania? Not true. Lusitania was able to capture the blue ribbon. So, Titanic never had a chance of catching the blue ribbon. So, yeah. Lusitania was way faster than Titanic. Fallon says, Alex, what's the tea of the day award go to? Today it is Earl Grey. Russell says, do earthquakes happen where you are in the Northwest? We only get very mild ones in the UK that are barely detected. In the Pacific Northwest of the United States, where I live, so we do have a fault called the Cascadia Fault, which produces massive earthquakes that are, above 9.0 on the Richter scale. But it only happens like once every 300 years. We're about due for one. I think it's been 317 years by now since the last one happened. But we don't get detectable earthquakes on a normal basis. Like when I lived in Southern California, we had them all the time. Sometimes every 2 months you got like a small earthquake that you could feel. You're sitting there drinking coffee in the morning and all of a sudden the house is kind of shaking just a little bit and you're like, oh, we had an earthquake, Like it was just like a normal thing for us down there. But up here it is just completely, no movement whatsoever. What we do know is that we get undetectable earthquakes under the ground, but that's from various things. Sometimes it is from the crust moving, but sometimes it's also from the nearby volcanoes. Like nearby where I live, there are 3 volcanoes surrounding us. There's Mount Hood, which is the closest to me. Then there's Mount St. Helens, which isn't that much farther. And then there's I want to say Mount Jefferson, if I have that right. I know it sounds like the name of a president. So nearby there's about 3 volcanoes, but there's volcanoes all along the Cascadia Mountains. So we get undetectable earthquakes, but none that you can feel up here. But yeah, living in Southern California, we had them all the time. It was like every 2 months you got like some kind of earthquake you could feel. And then maybe every 2 years you had a significant earthquake that really kind of shook, the land. So, yeah. It's weird, yeah. I've been up here for 2.5 years, not a single bit of shaking. So, it's nice, but then we get worse earthquakes than we ever like. In Southern California, the worst earthquake we could get was a 7.0, but up here, it is a 9.0 when it does happen. So that'll be pretty crazy. Paul says, what would you think about them doing a movie about the Queen Mary like they did with Titanic? That would be really awesome, but nothing as impactful happened to the Queen Mary the way it happened on Titanic. Titanic ended, with a terrible sinking. And that's part of what made the movie so exciting to watch. Not in like a happy exciting, but exciting in like a scary way, was because you slowly watched the ship just go under the water in like the most horrific manner. Nothing like that happened on the Queen Mary. The worst that happened was she got struck by a rogue wave, twice. Once during the war, which was the worser one, and then once in the 1960s. And then during the war, she accidentally sliced the HMS Curacao in half. So those are like the 3 most biggest events that ever happened to the Queen Mary in terms of disaster. But it's not really enough to kind of like, I think, make a big blockbuster movie out of the way they did with Titanic. I think what would work more for Queen Mary instead is a series, a TV series, like The Crown or like Downton Abbey. I really think that they could create a TV series on the Queen Mary that is like Downton Abbey because it works so well. The Queen Mary did voyages. You could do a show that focuses on crew on the Queen Mary and their various experiences and things that happen over the years, because there was a lot of things that happen aboard the ship. I mean, it's a ship, there's people coming and going all the time. You get all these crazy characters and weirdos and funny things that happen aboard the Queen Mary, and the crew changes out, and so it's a perfect kind of thing for a TV show. So yeah, I think Queen Mary would do very well as like a Downton Abbey / The Crown style TV show. Kyle says, is there a reason why cruise ships have a pointy looking bow and stern different than an ocean liner? Yes, so the bow on a cruise ship these days is specifically designed for decreasing the bow wave on the ship, as well as helping it to kind of float above kind of large swells that happen on the ocean. And so that's what the bow is for. So that's why it's pointy at the bottom, but then it becomes really broad and kind of wide at the top. If you're looking at it from a profile view, it does look pointy, like it's sticking out like that. That's all just to reduce the water line and decrease the drag happening on the ship. An ocean liner like the Queen Mary 2 has a similar looking bow to a cruise ship, but it's very important, the differences of it. The differences of the Queen Mary 2's bow, for one thing, is that it's much higher off the water than a normal cruise ship. And the front of the bow extends out farther than on a cruise ship. That is to help slice through waves, as well as the fact that the front of the bow is pointier ever so slightly than a cruise ship, and that is, again, for helping to slice through the waves. So, yeah, they don't look very different when you look at like a comparison picture, but those little tiny differences make all the difference. You know what I'm saying? Maritime View says, wish you could do a video of the Grand Trio, Lusitania, Mauretania, and Aquitania. Yeah, I would love to make a video about them. I'd love to make... I mean, it's not like I'm not going to. Like, that's the whole point of this channel, is to just keep doing more and more and more. And so, yeah, I eventually will, but I'm focusing on one ship at a time. I know virtually nothing about Lusitania, Mauretania, or Aquitania. I know virtually nothing about them. And like I tell everybody, I can't just, go, okay, now I know stuff, like, I actually have to, like, delve into the research, and it'll take me months before I can make videos like that. And I can't start on it right this minute, because I'm already working on another video. Like, one of the videos that's coming out is about the Johann von Oldenbarnevelt. Why did I choose that before Lusitania or Mauretania? Well, because there's less information to know, so I can make that video faster. And then after that, I have the Oceanic from 1899. That's going to be the next ocean liner video that is not Queen Mary related. And that one, again, I've got a book on it. I'm taking notes from the book, and I'm kind of like doing my own thing. I've also got websites that I've been looking at so I've been taking notes on that one. So, once I'm done with the Oceanic video, then I'm going to start working on one of the three of the trio. So I'm probably going to be doing Mauretania first, most likely. Once I learn about Mauretania, that'll help me know more about Lusitania. And then I'll do some research on Lusitania and do that. And then that'll help me to do research on Aquitania. And then once I have Aquitania under my belt, then I can make a video about all three, or multiple videos about all three. So there will be stuff like that, but that's how it has to work on my channel, is because I'm starting from zero. Like, I know nothing about ocean liners. And so while there's been so many people around me who've had years to research all this and learn all this stuff, I've never done that. I've never been interested in ocean liners before. So yeah, I'm literally starting from zero, and it will take me a long time to get there. But I'm doing my best. Just keep in mind, folks, it took me a year before I made my first Queen Mary video, because I was studying for a whole year all about the Queen Mary before I made my first videos. So that way the first video was as accurate as I could be. So Daniel says, hey Alex, what are some other ocean liners faster than Queen Mary but didn't get the blue ribbon? I don't know. Because you're basically asking what ships were faster than Queen Mary but slower than SS United States. I don't know. that is post-war ships, and I focus on ocean liners before World War II. So I definitely don't know about ships after World War II. I'm not really interested in ocean liners after World War II. That's when they got too modern for me. Too modern for what I like. I like classic ocean liners. So yeah, I couldn't tell you. Thomas says, would love to see what Christmas dinner would be like on the Queen Mary. For this Christmas season, I can do some research on that and, you know, see if I can make some kind of video or something out of it. Again, the problem with making videos about food on ocean liners is I don't know what it looked like. You know, I can read the menu, but the menu is only so descriptive. So I would have to, like, literally make up stuff myself. And even then, like, what do I do? Like, if there's no images of it, how do you make a video without images? That's just a podcast. so, like, because someone was commenting on one of my videos earlier today saying, oh, I like the idea about you doing videos about the Queen Mary's food. Just go ahead and make it. And I'm like, but there's nothing to show. Like, what do I show if there's no images? Like, you can't make a video without images. So that's the problem with making videos about food, is that without images of the food, I can't show anything. So, let's see. Brian says, James Cameron's Titanic movie was released in 1997. I know. Did I say a different year? I thought I said 1997. Spirit says, hey, Alex, just joined the stream. I was in the last stream. I see you're running your train this time as I asked last stream. Yes, indeed. Fallon Will says, can the original Queen Mary win against SS France 2 in a race? I don't know how fast SS France went, so I don't know. Fallon says, my grandmother had ashes from Mount St. Helens after it erupted. Oh yeah, I have a bottle of ashes too that my grandfather collected after Mount St. Helens erupted. I still have that bottle of ashes. Tyler says, did you watch the 1994 Jungle Book? I might have, but there's been so many Jungle Books, I don't remember which one was 1994. Fallon says, Alex, what if they made a scary movie about Queen Mary Ghost? They are. It's almost... It should be coming out soon, in fact. Yeah. It's going to be called Queen Mary. That's the title of the movie, Queen Mary, and it's about Queen Mary's ghosts. So yeah. Daniel says, wait, there was a second rogue wave that hit the Queen Mary? Yeah, so there were a lot of rogue waves that hit Queen Mary, but the two most prominent ones were 90-footers. The first one was taller. It was approximately 92 to 96 feet tall, and it struck Queen Mary during World War II, when she was carrying, there were 15,000 troops aboard at that time. The second massive rogue wave was 90 feet, and that one struck her on a winter crossing in like 1962 or 1963. Yeah. So she's been struck by several rogue waves, but those were the two biggest ones, the most prominent ones. So, yeah. Fallon Will says, Alex, did Queen Mary have sister ships like Titanic and Lusitania? So technically, no. Queen Mary had what you know, me and my friend Steve like to call a companion ship. So, so Queen Elizabeth was the companion ship to Queen Mary. It was designed very closely to Queen Mary's engineering, but with some slight differences. And then aesthetically, the ship looked very different than Queen Mary. The Queen Elizabeth in 1929 was originally going to be designed to be an exact replica of the Queen Mary, but over the years they made changes to the design until it was ready for construction. And once they started construction on the Queen Elizabeth, there was already a lot of changes made, so she's very different. So she doesn't technically count as a sister ship. She counts as a companion ship, which is more like more closer to Queen Mary than you would say a running mate. So Pacific says, I heard the name Johan van Oldenbarnevelt. Yep, that's the ship I'm going to be doing a video on. Doc says, are there any videos from you or others on the day in the life of a Queen Mary traveler? It'd be so cool to imagine oneself on a trip in a different... That is a video I was planning to make, but I can't make that video until I'm able to go to the ship and get more footage. So that's one of the... Like, literally, I have 100 ideas, you guys, of videos I want to make about the Queen Mary. But the thing that's stopping me from making them is I need to go to the ship and film more of the ship. Because I don't have any footage to show you of what I need. So I can't make videos without images. So yeah, but that is one of the ideas I had. One of like literally like 100 ideas. I made a huge list of ideas. Everything from like what it was like to be on the Queen Mary as she rolled, what it was like to be a passenger, what it was like to be a crew member, what it was like to be an officer on the ship. Where did people eat? What was it like to eat there? What did they do for fun? You know, what did the crew do for fun? That kind of thing. So, you know, also videos about the art on the ship, the wood paneling on the ship, videos about like where the hospitals were, what were the worst things that the hospitals had to treat, you know, that kind of thing. So there's all these little videos I want to make about the Queen Mary, but there's no images to go with it. So I need to go to the ship and film more of it. That's why I was pushing so much earlier this year, saying I'm going to go there when the ship reopens in October, and then it didn't open. And now I don't know when I'm going to be able to go there to film. So... Paul says, I don't know enough history, but after they built Titanic, did they ever make other ships or make a Titanic 2? I want to say thank you for all your research or videos. They never made a Titanic 2, but Titanic was a sister ship of the Olympic. So there was Olympic, Titanic, Britannic. Those were the three sisters. And Titanic and Britannic sank for two different reasons. You know, one hit an iceberg, one hit a underwater mine. But yeah, so Titanic was of a sister of Olympic. But as for like anyone making a Titanic 2, no one's ever made one. Daniel says, have you heard about Sierra Railway number 3? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? That sounds really familiar. It's a locomotive, right? That sounds really familiar. Oh, Maverick. That's really cool. Wow. Pacific says, have you been outside the U.S.? No, I haven't. Russell Cooper says, did Queen Mary have a predicted lifespan, or was she retired when she became inefficient to run? She was retired when she became inefficient to run. But that being said, generally speaking, ocean liners were designed for a service life of 40 years at sea. Now, that doesn't mean that at the end of 40 years, they just fall apart. Like, that's not how it works. It just means that at the end of 40 years, they either A, become too expensive to run, or B, become too outdated to keep running. So sometimes when ships reach that 40-year point, they'll undergo a massive restoration to update the interiors, update the machinery to make her more efficient, that kind of thing. But that rarely happens because when ships are just that old, normally the ship companies would rather just build a whole new ship. So Queen Mary, even though she was designed for a service life of 40 years without needing major overhauling, doesn't necessarily mean that she can't live longer, which is why she's still floating to this day. 86 years later, she's still floating in the water. So, yeah. So, as long as you keep updating a structure and you keep maintaining it and stuff, it'll last. Spirit of Roanoke says, what's the difference between a rogue wave and a tsunami? A rogue wave happens usually in a storm when there's multiple waves, and then a bunch of waves will combine to create one really big one. And the definition of a rogue wave is that it must be at least 30% taller than other waves in the area. So that is the definition of a rogue wave. A tsunami happens when there's an earthquake. So either a piece of land could shake from the earthquake, causing a tsunami, or a piece of land could actually fall underwater. Like there's underwater cliffs and things, and during an earthquake, those cliffs can collapse a little bit, and then that will shift all the water in the ocean, and that'll create a rippling wave that will spread across the oceans. That's a tsunami. So tsunamis are always caused by earthquakes in some shape or form, but rogue waves are always from storms. And rogue waves don't travel thousands of miles like a tsunami will. Rogue waves only happen in an instance, and then they disappear. So, yeah. Kevin says, top speed of SS France in 1960 is approximately 30 knots. Oh, okay. So then, yeah, SS France definitely was not faster than Queen Mary. Would you see Titanic? What? Fallon says, would you see Titanic, Britannic, or SS Rex in a submarine? I don't understand your question. Daniel says, yes, Sierra Railway is a steam locomotive. Yeah, it sounds familiar. I feel like I know it, but I don't know what it, because I don't remember, but it sounds very familiar. Kyle says, if a ship was sinking and there was not enough lifeboats, would there be women and children only and was very far from land? No, in this day and age, the women and children rule no longer exists. But that being said, In disasters, it has been known that the people who were escaping a sinking ship, such as Costa Concordia, sometimes people on their own chose to let women and children get on the lifeboats first. But technically, the women and children rule no longer exists. But yeah, but sometimes in a disaster, some people will require that anyway, just out of, courtesy and heroism. So yeah. Pacific says, what do you think about ships on the Great Lakes? Some of them are interesting, like SS Keewatin is really interesting. I actually really like the SS Keewatin. I wish I could visit it. But then there's some other really large ones, and I don't really like the way that they look, so I don't know. It's just like ocean liners. I like some ocean liners, some I don't like. And it's the same thing with the Great Lakes ships. Some of them were nice, some of them I don't like, so it, just depends on which ones I see and stuff. Fallon says, there was a tsunami in the Oregon coast. Yes, in the 1700s, during the last Cascadia earthquake, there was a massive tsunami. Paul says, any more amusement park videos? Keep up the good work. Thank you. I was thinking about doing a Pirates of the Caribbean video. I don't know how many people will really watch that video, so I haven't fully decided yet, but... Fallon says he sees locomotives every day. You must live near railroad tracks. Monty McQueen, yeah, on a lot of ships today, they usually keep a spare or two, or even sometimes 3 spare engines. On the Queen Mary 2, the propellers are powered by 4 main engines, but they usually only use 3 of those 4 main engines. They have 1 in reserve, and then on top of that, to ensure that the ship has extra power when needed, they have 2 turbo engines up on the top deck. So technically, the Queen Mary 2 has 3 spare engines. So, yeah, a lot of ships sometimes carry spare engines for that reason. Daniel says, have you seen BTTF3? I don't know what that is. Daniel says, hey Alex, could SS Keewatin survive a transatlantic crossing and maybe with rough seas? It is a very short ship. But I mean, technically, yes. I mean, if it went during good weather, yeah, I don't see any problem with it crossing the Atlantic. The only thing is that maybe it wouldn't be able to refuel. Like, the only way it could cross the Atlantic is if there was, like, maybe 2 or 3 areas where it could refuel. Because I don't think it would carry enough fuel to get all the way across. Because you have to remember that ships are always designed for a very specific, like, purpose, like where they're going. And so Keewatin was designed to go across the Great Lakes, but not across the ocean. So it wouldn't have been able to carry that much fuel. So, yeah. Fallon says, why does the original Queen Mary have 3 funnels and Queen Mary 2 has 2 or 1 funnels? It's the simplest answer I could give you without showing you like blueprints, because I do suggest you should Google some blueprints of those ships. But basically, it's because of the fact the original Queen Mary had boilers. Queen Mary 2 doesn't have boilers. She has diesel engines, and all the diesel engines are in one room. But the boilers on Queen Mary, because there were so many, they were spread out over 5 different rooms. So because of that, because they were spread throughout the length of the ship, they needed to exhaust up. They can't make the first engine room exhaust and the last engine room exhaust funnel into one funnel, because that would take up the entire interior space of the ship. You know, it would take up too much space. So to save on space, they funnel the boilers only in the immediate areas. And so that's why there are 3 on Queen Mary, is because that's where they deemed is the appropriate areas to put a funnel to exhaust all the smoke and gases. But on Queen Mary 2, because all of the engines are in one room, they really only need 1 funnel. And so there's really no point in having multiple funnels on a ship like that. So, in fact, most cruise ships only have 1 operational funnel. And it's because all their engines are in one room, you know. Because, again, they don't run on steam these days. They run on diesel engines. So you save a lot of space on the bottom of a ship. Ryan says, have you realized that RMS Queen Elizabeth is the only Cunard Queen that no longer exists? The only Cunard Queen? Well, let me think. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. That threw me off for a second because I didn't even think of Cunard Queen. But yeah, that's right. The Queen Elizabeth is the only Cunard Queen that no longer exists. It's sad. I want to make a video about the Queen Elizabeth. You see, before I ever make a video about the QE2, I'm more likely to make a video about the Queen Elizabeth because I actually know a lot about the Queen Elizabeth now. So, but the thing is that there isn't very much footage or images. I pretty much already own all the images that exist of the RMS Queen Elizabeth, and that's not enough to make a video. Not a very long video, at least. Maybe a 5-minute video. Which isn't saying much, because there's a lot of history to tell. So it is kind of frustrating, because I want to make a video about it, but I need more footage to make a better, like a longer video. Yeah. I gotta wrap up this live stream, because very soon I have to start dinner. So, let me see. Fallon Will says, Alex, does Queen Mary 2 go the same route as Queen Mary? Yes, absolutely. Daniel says, I mean Back to the Future 3. Yeah, I love Back to the Future 3. Kyle says, if you are America and wanted to visit Southampton, how would you get there if all ocean liners are retired but not the Queen Mary 2? She remains in service. People go across the ocean all the time on airplanes. That's the way everybody gets to Southampton from the United States, is on an airplane. But you could take the Queen Mary 2. I mean, I know I would. If I had the option, I'd take the Queen Mary 2. Ryan says, oh, Ryan was answering somebody else. Okay. Fallon says, Alex, do you know while Lusitania's bow hit the seafloor while it was sinking? I don't understand your question. Do you know are you saying why Lusitania's bow hit the... Well, you know what? I'll just answer very simply. I don't know the details of Lusitania's sinking. I saw a documentary once, but that was a long time ago. So I don't know. But Aurora says, Alex, in New York, will you go to Cunard White Star Pier 54? There is one last structural old iron facade still standing from the Golden Age. Was there when Olympic Lusitania Carpathia docked in the 1900s. I would, but I don't think I will be able to. Russell Cooper says, would the Queen Mary be able to sail under the Golden Gate Bridge? As far as I know, yes. The Queen Mary, well, you say would, as in would the Queen Mary ever? And I would have to say no. The Queen Mary never will sail underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, but she is capable of having. If the hypothetical scenario of the Queen Mary still sailing and having a reason to go to San Francisco, yes, she could fit underneath the Golden Gate Bridge. But no, there was never a reason for Queen Mary to go to San Francisco, and nor did she ever, go there. So, but hypothetically, yes, she could fit under the Golden Gate Bridge. Let's see. Rena Rosales says, what's for dinner? I am making chili. It's a family recipe. Pacific says, thinking about anything special during winter. Snow. I love snow. Maritime Review says, did you know that SS Keewatin was built in Scotland in 1907 by Canadian Pacific Railroad? She was split in half when she crossed the St. Lawrence Canal before she was officially on the Great Lakes. Split in half. Strange. Yeah, I know very little about SS Keewatin, but that's pretty cool. Oh, Daniel, that's okay. That's why you asked about Sierra Railway. Yes, I remember now. That is the Sierra Railway 3. Yeah. Fallon says, have you heard of the Empress of Ireland? Absolutely. Very famous ship. Ryan says, I suggest that you use pictures of different things that you are mentioning from her history, if it's long enough. Things that you are mentioning from her history. Use at least one pictures. Well, yes, Ryan, that's exactly how you make a video, is you use different images and you use different videos. I have all the images and videos. Problem is there isn't enough. That's the problem. That there's not enough to make like a documentary about. So I could make up to like a 5, maybe an 8-minute video, but it's not enough for what I need. I need more. I need more. I have all the ones that you can find on Google, all the images you can find on YouTube, but it's not enough. Like when I talk about her war service, I have 2 or 3 videos of her during the war. Each video is only a minute long, but a segment about the war and her service in the war is going to be around 5 minutes at least on its own. So I do have an issue finding like enough. So let's see. Adelphi says, fine, skip me. Well, I'm sorry. I'm not purposely skipping anybody, you guys. Sometimes I just don't see. Because you have to remember the chat is like moving. Every time I'm reading it, it's constantly going up, 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 up like that. And I have to scroll to make sure I don't miss anybody. But sometimes I miss people. But it's not anything personal. I'm not skipping people. Interesting. Okay. Also, Adelphi, keep in mind, I don't read everybody's comments. If it's something that isn't a question, there's no reason for me to read it out loud. Because if it's not a question, then, there's nothing for me to answer. Justin says, we are long overdue for a series filmed Downton Abbey style on the subject of ocean liner voyages. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Daniel says, what are your thoughts on the locomotive? It's okay. I don't really have any thoughts on it. It's okay. I don't know anything about it, if that's what you're asking. Like, I don't know anything. All I know is it was in Back to the Future 3. So... Luke says, why are Cunard's cruises so long? Are they? I don't think they're long. Some of them are like 3 or 4 days. That's not very long. Thomas Brooks says, when I went to New York, there is a new park. That ramp go through the pier. Do more choice, man. That a ramp that goes there. I don't know. Fallon asks, does the Queen Mary 2 drop reefs over the Titanic wreck? I don't know. I don't think it did. Alright, everybody, I do have to get going now, so thank you all so much for joining me. Next tea time is on Wednesday, and again, videos are released usually every Tuesday and Friday, so always keep an eye out for a video from me on Tuesdays and Fridays. So, yeah. Alright, see you all later. Bye-bye.